Hi everyone and welcome back. I want to talk to you today about something that's flying completely under the radar right now. We're in the middle of the summer break, it's early August, everyone's at the beach, everyone's relaxing, and the Formula 1 news cycle has gone quiet. But inside the Aston Martin factory at Silverstone and inside the Honda factory in Sakura, Japan, there's absolutely no relaxing going on. Because when we get to Zandvoort in a few weeks, Aston Martin is bringing something that could completely change the trajectory of their season. I'm talking about a massive brand new Honda engine upgrade. Now, I know what you're thinking. Aston Martin, really? Haven't they been terrible this year? And you're right, the first half of 2026 was a nightmare for them. The car was heavy, the aerodynamics were wrong, and the engine vibrated so badly that Fernando Alonso literally said he couldn't drive more than 25 laps without risking nerve damage in his hands. But things are changing fast. Before we get into the exact numbers of this new engine, and trust me, the numbers are exciting, I want to ask you a question. Drop a comment down below right now. Do you think Aston Martin can actually fight for podiums in the second half of this season? Or is it already too late? Let me know what you think. Okay, let's talk about this engine because the story behind it is actually fascinating. In Formula 1 right now, under these new 2026 regulations, you cannot just build a new engine whenever you feel like it. The rules are incredibly strict to keep costs down. You're locked in. But there is a loophole, and it's a loophole that Honda desperately needed. It's called the ADUO regulation, which stands for Additional Design and Upgrade Opportunities. Here's how it works in simple terms. The FIA measures all the engines on the grid against a performance benchmark. At the start of this year, Red Bull Ford powertrains had the strongest engine, so they set the benchmark. Honda unfortunately was struggling. They were measured at more than 4% behind that benchmark. Now, 4% might not sound a lot in the real world, but in Formula 1, being 4% down on power means you're absolutely nowhere on the straights. You're a sitting duck. Because they were so far behind, the FIA granted Honda permission to make emergency upgrades. They're allowed 2 homologation updates this season and 2 more next season. But Honda is playing it smart. They're only using one of those updates right now for Zandvoort, putting all their focus into getting the specific package right. And let me tell you, Honda is not holding back. They've completely redesigned the internal combustion chamber. They've changed the pre-chamber. They've updated the lubrication system to reduce friction, and the best part, they did all of this internally. The outside of the engine is exactly the same size and shape. Why does that matter? Because it means Aston Martin doesn't have to change their chassis to fit the new engine. They can keep the aerodynamic upgrades they brought to Hungary, which made the car almost 2 seconds a lap faster, and just drop this new, more powerful engine right inside. So the big question, how much more powerful is it? The reports coming out of Italy and Japan are pointing to a gain of around 35 horsepower. Now, I want to be careful here because teams never officially confirmed their exact horsepower numbers. It's the biggest secret in the paddock, but multiple reliable sources are pointing to that 35 horsepower figure. In Formula 1 terms, that's massive. That translates to roughly half a second per lap in pure straight line speed. Think about that for a second. Let's do the math. In Hungary, the chassis upgrade gave them roughly 1.8 seconds of lap time improvement. If this engine gives them another half a second, we're talking about a car that's suddenly over 2 seconds a lap faster than it was at the start of the year in Bahrain. That's the difference between fighting for 15th place and fighting for the top 5. But here's a question for you guys. Do you trust these numbers? We've heard big promises from teams before that didn't deliver on track. Let me know if you think that half second gain is realistic or if it's just summer break hype. Personally, I think it's real, and we know the engine works. How do we know? Because they've already tested it. On July 29th, which by the way was Fernando Alonso's 45th birthday, Aston Martin held a secret filming day at the Hungaroring. They put the new Honda engine in the back of the AMR 26 and they ran it for 200 kilometers. Honda's chief engineer, Shintaro Orihara, confirmed that the test was a complete success. The engine ran perfectly, the integration was smooth, and the data matched their simulations. This brings me to the most important part of this whole story, and it's not about the car, it's about the driver, Fernando Alonso. Alonso's contract is up at the end of 2026. He's been very open about the fact that he's going to use this summer break to decide what he wants to do next. Does he stay in Formula 1? Does he go race the Dakar Rally? Does he retire completely? A lot of people assumed that if Aston Martin kept struggling, Alonso would just walk away. But here's the twist. Alonso recently came out and said that his decision has nothing to do with how fast the Aston Martin is right now. He said, and I quote, "I have zero doubts that Adrian Newey will provide the best car on the grid sooner or later. On the power unit, I have no doubts as well. It's a matter of time that Honda fixes the issues." He actually said that. He trusts Newey, and he trusts Honda. So what's holding him back? One word: adrenaline. Alonso admitted that the current 2026 cars with the heavy batteries, the 50-50 power split, and the weird power delivery where the battery just cuts out at the end of straights just aren't giving him the same thrill they used to. He said, and this is a direct quote, "It's not a problem of the competitiveness of the team, it's just a problem of whether Formula 1 gives me the adrenaline that I need to live." I find that incredibly honest. He's not blaming the team, he's not throwing Aston Martin under the bus, he's just asking himself a very human question: do I still love driving these specific cars? When you've been racing for over 2 decades, and you've driven the screaming V10s and the V8s, these heavy 2026 cars must feel very different. But let's be real here for a second. If you are Fernando Alonso, the ultimate competitor, and you show up to Zandvoort and suddenly your car has 35 more horsepower, if you can actually fight with the Mercedes and the Ferraris again, dive down the inside at Tarzan Corner and feel the car pulling hard all the way down the straight, I guarantee you that adrenaline is going to come rushing right back. Winning, or even just competing at the front, cures a lot of complaints about how a car feels. Adrian Newey seems to think so too. Just a few days ago, Newey was asked about Alonso's future. He smiled and said he's pretty confident that Fernando is enjoying his time with the team and that they'll continue their relationship into 2027. When Adrian Newey is confident about something, you should probably listen. So here's how I see the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort playing out for them. Aston Martin is not going to show up on Friday morning and instantly beat Lando Norris or Max Verstappen. That's just not how Formula 1 works, especially with a brand new power unit. Mike Crack, the team boss, has already warned everyone not to expect miracles in free practice 1. It takes time to dial in a new engine. They have to figure out the right engine mapping, they have to balance the new power delivery with the aerodynamic setup, and they have to make sure the reliability is there. The drivers need time to understand how the car reacts when they put their foot down out of the slow corners. But by qualifying on Saturday afternoon, when the engines are turned up to maximum power, and definitely by the race on Sunday, we're going to see a very different Aston Martin. Think about the journey they've been on this year. They fixed the aerodynamics with that massive Hungary upgrade. They fixed the engine vibrations that were literally hurting the drivers. And now they've added a reported 35 horsepower. For the first time all year, Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll are going to have a car that actually works the way it was designed to work on a drawing board. And if it does work, if Alonso gets out of the car on Sunday afternoon in Zandvoort with a smile on his face, knowing he finally has a weapon he can fight with, I think we'll see a contract extension announced before we even get to Monza. The pieces are all falling into place. But what do you think, guys? Is this Honda engine upgrade going to be enough to convince Fernando Alonso to stay in Formula 1 for another year? Or do you think he's already dreaming about the Dakar Rally? Let me know in the comments down below. I read every single one, and I genuinely love seeing your theories. Now, if you enjoyed this deep dive, do me a huge favour and hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. Enjoy the rest of your summer break, and I'll see you guys in Zandvoort.